give you a heads up of how the meeting's going to go tonight. Renee and Carmen are going to do a short presentation, PowerPoint explaining, and then a demonstration. And then the rest of the meeting is going to be hands-on, working on your trees and all. So, right, correct? Okay.
And so that being said, I'm going to introduce Renee and Carmen, who I think most everybody knows. They are the stars of our development series on YouTube, with all the trident maples and the junipers, and they're both huge wealths of knowledge. So pay attention, you might miss something. No, but here you go. I'll hand it over to them to begin their presentation.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I think, well, we're going to start off with a short PowerPoint just to kind of review the work that we need to do at this time of year. This is a very important time for working on deciduous trees. Here we go, spring care and wound maintenance on deciduous and broadleaf evergreens. Next slide. We're going to kind of whiz through these because we kind of got a little bit of a late start this morning. I mean, this afternoon, this evening. Is that too close to my mouth or something? You guys like my little thing there? Okay. So first of all, I kind of want to apologize to all of the really experienced members in the crowd because a lot of this that I'm going to be going over is just, kind of rehashing stuff that you already know. But for the new members, I think it's really critically important to get the concepts that are needed for developing bonsai. So creating bonsai is all about controlling growth and developing structure. And this is a combination of good horticulture, understanding the techniques applied to develop a tree into a bonsai. Very simple words, but there's a lot of meaning there. But for the horticultural part for this time of year, we're not going to go into that this evening, but on our website, you can go on to our yearly care schedule for fertilization and stuff like that. And also, Ian did a beautiful pest management program. So that's all on our website that you can refer to for the horticulture parts that you need to understand. Okay, bonsai development techniques for late spring, early summer. These are the techniques for controlling growth and improving structure. And I put if needed in there because when I first started doing this, it's time to defoliate, run out and defoliate everything, but you don't even know why you're doing it. You don't understand if the tree needs it or not. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what are we going to apply to our tree? Where are we going with the tree? We need to understand where we want to go with that tree. So for now, if needed, we can do defoliation, we can do cutback, we can thin, wire, good time to do wound care, and also if we do total defoliation, we can do thread grafting. So all of those things we can do right now. Next slide, please. So defoliation, what exactly does that mean? Who can explain defoliation for me? Somebody here can explain. Yeah, well, it's removing either all of the leaves or part of the leaves. Why do we do this? When do we do this? These are all the questions we need to ask. Do we do this to all deciduous and broadleaf evergreens? Probably not. Depends on the tree. Next slide, please. So defoliation types, there's two different types. You can do what's called a full defoliation, or what is often known as an outer canopy defoliation, where you take off about 80 to 90% of the trees, like you see here with this Japanese maple. I've left a lot of the weaker inter growth to strengthen. Let's see. We don't want to defoliate weak branches, sacrifice branches, things like that we need. If you need to get it stronger, you don't defoliate. Partial defoliation is when you just reduce part of the foliage mass, and that would be like cutting leaves in half just to reduce the amount of foliage on the outer canopy of the tree. So we would just go through and like cut leaves in half. So you just reduce the foliage on the outside of the tree by reducing the leaf foliage by cutting the leaves in half. Okay, so for all partial foliage, excuse me, I'm trying to go too fast here. Partially, you're reducing the foliage mass. For alternate leaf species, you go through and you can cut the leaves in half. For opposite leaf species, you just remove one of two leaf pairs, like on a maple. You would go through, you have two leaves, and you would just reduce the leaf mass by taking off one of each leaf pair. So that reduces the leaf mass. Next slide, please. So why why do we do defoliation? When you defoliate, you're weakening the strong parts of the tree, giving the weaker parts a chance to live and to develop, because the weaker parts are usually the parts that have the shorter inner nodes and smaller leaves. So if you take off the really strong parts on the outside, the weaker stuff on the inside has a chance to grow and develop finer ramification in the tree. New leaves are theoretically smaller. It's a good time to wire. Opportunities for thread grafting. Do not defoliate weak trees, trees in early development, or sacrifice branches. Rule of thumb, if you want something to get stronger, you don't defoliate that. Next slide, please. Defoliation when? This is a good time of year for defoliation. And the reason for that is that your deciduous trees have gone through their spring flush of growth. They've used the stored energy to push out the spring flush of growth. Those leaves have now hardened off, and the tree is starting to reabsorb energy back into the tree. So we can go through and remove the hardened off leaves, and they'll send out a second flush of growth that will have smaller leaves and hopefully smaller leaves. You can do a second defoliation on hardy trees like trident maples, silverberries, and possibly more. Next slide. So what types of trees? Full defoliation. You can do trident maples, silverberries, Chinese quince. Some people do ginkgos, some people don't. And it depends on who you talk to. Even the experts do it differently. Peter doesn't like to defoliate. He won't defoliate ginkgos. He doesn't defoliate oaks, but a lot of people do. So it kind of depends on who you talk to. Just be careful, though, and make sure that you know that your tree is strong and that you understand, what you can do, what you can't do to the tree. Partial defoliation on hornbeams. This is where you'd go through and cut the leaves in half, like on beech, crab apples, cherries, Japanese maples. Just be sure you understand your tree and you're not going to do something to damage it by being a little overzealous with the defoliation. Next slide, please. Cut back. What exactly does this mean? When do we do this? Why do we do this? It means cutting. Next slide, please. Cut back. The tree has been allowed to grow and get strong during the spring, and now the foliage is hardened off, and it's time to cut back new growth. Cut back equals division. You don't get your tree to divide. You want your tree to divide where you want it to divide. So you have to make your cuts at the point where you want division to take place. So for cut back, if I have a branch, I need to cut back this branch where I want the division to take place. If I cut it there, my division is going to be at the next two nodes. This is an alternate leaf species, so I'm cutting and leaving two nodes behind it. If I want the division to be down here, I have to cut down here. So you have to be aware of where you're making your cuts to get the division where you want it. When cutting back to lignified wood, we always want to use cut paste to kind of seal the end of the branch where we're making the cut. Do we want the branches to get bigger? If we do, we don't cut them back. Oh.
What's lignified wood?
When it gets hard and it gets woody, it's not green anymore, like on, let's say on this, all all of this new stuff out here, this year's growth, it's all very green. It has not hardened off yet. If you go back 1 year and look at this part, this is getting woody. It's getting, you can't even bend it anymore. It gets woody. And so that's lignified when it gets hard like that. Okay, so if do we want the branch to get bigger? If we do, we don't cut it back. No, then you want to cut back on alternate leaf species. You want to leave 2 nodes back behind your cut, because when these start to grow, that's going to increase the ramification of the branch. When you cut back, you're hopefully going to get from 1 shoot, you're going to get 2 shoots. So as you keep cutting back each year, you'll keep getting more ramification. That's how you develop ramification on your tree. Next slide.
Does that apply to width or length?
To width, excuse me.
Okay.
Yes, to the girth of the branch. I'm sorry. Yeah. So anyway, these are just some graphics about that showing you if you have the terminal bud. This is where the hormones, the growth hormones are. And as long as this little terminal bud's here, these axillary buds will not grow. So we have to cut that terminal bud off to get these axillary buds to pop. So it depends on where you make that cut. If you make the cut up here, these 2 are going to grow. If you make it here, these 2. If you make it here, these 2. So it depends on where you want the ramification to start and the buds to break. So hopefully, ideally, you get two buds popping when you make that cut. Alternate species, like I was saying, terminal bud, it depends on where you make that cut, and you have to leave 2 nodes on an alternate species, because you want to leave 2 potential buds back behind your cut to give you the division and give you 2 going from 1 shoot to 2 shoots. Next slide, please. And thinning, what does this mean? When do we do this? We do it now. Why do we do this? I'll explain that with the next slide. Thinning, you want to remove unwanted branches to improve structure. So what remains will grow stronger. So as you're cutting back, if you're pruning a tree, you're pushing the growth back closer into the trunk. And as you do that, it gets very dense, and you can get a lot of congestion and stuff. So you have to go in and thin it out. Pick the things that you want to leave to develop the branch. You want your branches to be, like kind of like the tree, with alternate branching. You want to make it pretty. So you have to kind of go in and thin out what you don't want, so you keep what you do want. After defoliation, problem areas are more visible. So when we defoliate, we can now see where the problem areas are. It's easier to thin at this time. It's a good time to make large cuts and address large wounds, because the tree is actively growing. So healing will begin immediately. Next slide, please. So unthinning, just do an example. You have a branch where you've been cutting it back and things are starting to get all congested. So you want to go in and thin it out, so you're developing the nice ramification that you want. You have to kind of do this, because if you don't, some of the things that you want may die, and it gets too congested, things will die off. So you kind of have to go in and thin it out, so you develop that branch the way you want it to look. You get nice, even, beautiful division in the branch. Next slide, please. And wiring, so this time of year is good. We've defoliated the tree. We can see the branches. We can go in, thin it, wire it, and really start working on developing those branches into beautiful, beautiful branches. It's the best time for wiring, because the trees are actively growing, damage heals quickly, branch movement, it sets quickly, but you have to really, when you wire this time of year, you really have to watch it close, because trees are growing very aggressively, and the wire can start biting in really fast. So when you wire now, you really have to watch those trees, make sure the wire doesn't cut in because that can really destroy the look of a tree. Next slide, please. Now Carmen gets to take over. Oh,
Well,
I don't know. I put this on. Here, allow.
yeah, that's it. That's it. Should we run across the?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to talk about wound care, and it's amazing. Well, you can't escape wounds, so you need to know about wound care because you're going to get wounds. And the quicker you can heal them, the better off your tree is at. You really need, when it grows rapidly, you're healing the wounds faster. If you're doing all this other stuff on your tree, you're slowing everything down and your wounds are still there. So it's kind of a priority right there along with, thanks, right there. It's priority right along there with getting the base. So first things is base, but if you've got wounds, you got to pay attention to them. So I've taken some pictures of what to do and what not to do, what looks good. Um, I don't know. It might just distract me. Ah, okay. So you've made it, or you're making a cut. How do you make the cut? You need to very, very sharp tools because you want a very smooth surface so that as the callus forms, and I'll show you the callus in a minute, as the callus forms, it comes across and heals it over with new tissue. If it has to go over this, see this edge right here? If you cut it like this part never goes away. So it'll heal over around here, but then you'll still have this bump over there instead of a nice smoother surface. So you don't want people to know there was ever a wound there. You want it to disappear. The other thing about this one, if it's uneven and as wide as it is, the tissue flows up along the outside, so it tends to heal around the outside. So this is going to have a tough time to get through there. Whereas this one, it'll follow along this line and it will heal more smoothly and more rapidly. So your cut on most trees, on most species, is going to be concave. And sometimes it looks like you're putting this big, huge dent in the tree, and you are, but the callus will fill that up. So it's more important to get it like that. And if you leave a lump, it's going to get lumpier and you're going to have to cut it again and again and again. And wounds can take a long, long time to heal. So if you get it right earlier, you're ahead of the game. Next slide. All right. So say you're taking a large branch off, maybe one of Gage's over there. They're large. Instead of cutting it exactly to where you want it to be, say you want it here, if you make a straight cut up higher, like 1 inch higher or 2 inches higher, depending on how big it is, you've stopped all the growth, everything going up to that branch stops and it starts detracting, it starts coming back. And so this part back here slowly dies. This part is happily growing along and all the good stuff is going up to this branch and growing that one. So you do that, say in winter, and then you wait. And while that all recedes back and this dies back, now in May, you can come back and you've sealed this. All these wounds you're sealing. You come back and you cut it for the final flush. And it's not going to affect the tree as much. The tree is going to be happier of going along. It's already going up this way. It's going to continue, and this isn't going to be quite as dramatic. And again, heal. And if you cut here, say you have little branches, little twigs and things come out of here, because it could, it's going to sprout there because it wants to go this way. It just can't make it. But maybe some branches, some little twigs get through, cut those off because you want it to retract. So, and that's just the very beginning of it. And the other one I showed you is more for like a small area. If you had a small wound and you just wanted a little thing, you can just flush cut that. This is for big stuff. And you can always leave a stub for a while, even if it's, not like pinky sized, you can still leave a stub and wait. And when stuff comes out of the bottom, when the growth comes out here, and this is died back, you can cut it too. So it's not just big stuff. It can also be smaller. When you get to the small stuff, you just cut it off. You don't care. Okay, next slide. Okay, so you've made this callus, and I've got a bunch of them here. Kurtz, this tree, you have to look at this. You've done the most beautiful job of carving this back. Yeah, very nicely done. So you've made the cut. It's been sitting there. It's starting to grow over, and this is the callus, and it's just really active tissue that's growing, and eventually wants to flow over this because it's pushing that way. But sometimes it just stops. It's, it's going, yeah, I'm done what I'm doing, and I'm fine. I'm going to stall. So maybe once a year, you need to look at your tree and say, okay, do I need to heal this, or is it going to keep going? So to make it revitalized, see this little green area, you've just cut a very small, sharp area around this, very smooth, and it'll start rehealing. And this, you can do this over and over again, however long it takes. And if the cambium is really thin, just don't do it. Just wait. Give it another year. I mean, we're talking years and years here. Okay, next slide. All right, this is our favorite thing. This is Gage's specialty for us. That's sometimes you don't do anything to the wound and they get really deep. And the callus forms, but there's no way it's going to bridge open air. So you have to do something. I was going to say, wounds or deadwood is really not a feature on deciduous trees unless you don't have a choice in the matter. If you can make it a feature, go for it, but a tree usually looks healthier and better if it does not have wounds. Yes, I'm looking at you, Gage. So to deal with a hole like this, there's some different ways. The best way to do it is you fill that hole, and I have some things here that work really well. And so I don't know if you can even see it, but there's an example there. That's my apple tree. I mean, it goes way, way, way deep inside. And I thought, oh, I don't care. But that's really not where I want. That would be the front, but I want the front to be there. So I have to try and fill that. But I can't just score it. It's never going to do it. So there's two ways to do this. And this one is called Quickwood. And you can win it in the raffle. And it's just an epoxy, and it's the coolest stuff. The outside is the darker, the inside is lighter. You cut off a piece that's about the size you think you might want to fill that spot. Oh, and by the way, before you fill that spot, and I'm just going to sit here and knead it and talk to you about it. You have got to get these mixed so it's all one color. So before you jam this in here, you clean that inside out because there is dead wood in there, and you have got to get it clean. You have got to get it back to something without little bumps and nicks in it. If there's, I just messed me up. If there's punky wood, so it's rotted, you're in a lot of trouble if you have that. So you have got to dig that out completely, absolutely completely. Don't leave any. Okay, so I've worked this, and it's a putty, and then all you do is stuff it into the wound, literally until it's somewhat flush. And I've got the picture of it there. I don't have the picture of it. The picture of it that was up there. Okay, so there's the epoxy fill, and then you put it to where the top of the callus is, or where you want the to go over. You make like the other picture where you make this fine line all the way around it after the epoxy's set, and then you seal it, and it will start to heal over. The other one you can use, and I have this, is if you have a huge wound, and people say they use like the size of like a baseball. So you can carve it out. That would usually be something like a trident maple because they heal so beautifully. So you use this, add water. It's called Quickcrete. It's a fast drying concrete. And so I actually did it at home. So I did this, what time was it? 4? About 4 o'clock? Yeah. And so you just trowel it in, or, I used a little knife like this, troweled it in there, and you can see where, and you have to make sure this is clean. So this is where my cambium is going to be. So I've already figured out where the live vein is. So I've gone below that, and then I make the cut all the way around the outside, and then I seal it with we've got multiple things to seal it with. Putties, we've got this, couple different putties, and it'll work. And it's a whole lot less expensive than buying 5 of these or 6 of these. These are $9 each. So, okay, any questions? Okay. Our trees are waiting. Let's get to work. Oh, and we have 2 Dremel stations up here if you're going to grind some wounds out instead of just working on them with tools. This goes a lot faster if you want to do that. And we have the tools up here. We have drills. Bring it on up, Gage. Let me take this. Oh, bring your tree up here. And if you want to see it, well,